welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 2, episode 30. Oh my god, it's so hard to believe that we're already halfway through the second season. And at first, I thought 60 episodes was going to be so long. And then as it turns out, as usual, because of all the encouragements and all the questions and more importantly, comments and the content that you actually request to see and hear, it's made it super easy for me to really stand here in front of you and just help you, guide you, answer some of those things. And honestly though, again, even though I'm alone here by myself in my own little room here, I am not the smartest person in the room still. I'm still both the dumbest and the smartest, depending on what kind of questions that you're asking me. Because so many of you are asking me about stocks and gold and bonds and all that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm not your guy. Real estate has always been my focus. I mean, I've gone into business before and then I found real estate, and then that's ever since then, I feel like that's been my calling. However, one of the things that I've learned also is that 95% of the world's millionaires and billionaires, they either started in real estate or at least parked their money in real estate for the reasons that I have been sharing with you. And so I just really want to thank you for participating on this journey with me and for sharing my messages as well. And so today we're going to wrap up the 5 ways to achieve financial freedom in 5 years or less. And today I'm actually not going to be doing a lot of writing because it's going to be very complicated. What I really want to share with you is a very high level concept, because some of you guys have been messaging me and asking me, hey Tim, why don't you talk about commercial units, commercial properties? Why don't you talk about some of the larger deals? Why are we always talking about income properties and flips and burrs and lendings and lease options? Well, you know what? This is the reason why I'm focusing on those is simply because of the fact that most people actually don't have a solid foundation on the various strategies, as basic as they may seem, to actually help them build a solid portfolio that gives them the security and the cash flow, more importantly, for them to move forward. Don't get me wrong, I like the bigger stuff as well, because as you go bigger, as you get a little bit more experience, you tend to want to hit the next goal as well. And I just remember, even when I first started in this industry, I just always thought that, oh my goodness, one day, if I can tell people I own commercial properties, it's gonna sound so amazing. And so as it turns out, it is amazing, and it is not at the same time, because there's a lot of different considerations that definitely need to be accounted for. And this is why we always believe that there is a reason why everybody really needs to go through that hand-holding process with proper education, with trainers and mentors and coaches, simply because we want to make sure that you understand that you can crawl before you walk, and you can walk properly before you actually run. And if you want sort of another way that I usually put this also is the fact that, well, I always kind of say, remember when we were little, and as little kids, we would take baths instead of showers. We'd do baths in the bathtubs, and we'd be so happy with just some floaties and, you know, our little rubber duck that would just go in the water with us. We'd be so happy just playing with that. However, as we get older, our toys got bigger. And honestly, sometimes that's actually how I look at this industry, because I keep saying real estate, properties, they're just our vehicle. And what I really mean is that that's just the toys that we're playing with, because at the end of the day, what we focus on is the performance and the number side of things, because again, wealth by definition is not exactly what vehicle you choose, it is the results in the portfolio that you're building as a whole. And so as we grow older, our appetites get bigger. We want to play with bigger toys as well. And so I took the same path as well. And so at one point we have mobile home parks, and we also have strip malls, and we haven't gone into industrial units ourselves yet. However, I did wholesale industrial unit, which means it still requires understanding and knowledge on that. It's just that this is not something that a lot of people get into as one of their first deals. However, if you are one of those people, so that's why today, the 5th way to achieve financial freedom. This is not the most common way, I'll just put it out there. I think I've sort of graduated you guys from what's the most common way to approach this from the first way and all the way now. I'm just gonna really share this as a high level process and a concept with you because I do have students and I have worked with them and mapped out a plan for them as well. Granted, I'm gonna tell you, be completely honest, less than 2 handfuls right now. Okay, because not everybody has that kind of risk tolerance or appetite or access to capital in the first place. However, what I'm really meaning by that is the fact that most of these investors, what they've done is they've done a lot of traditional investing, or that's sort of the nice way to say it, or what I've always called amateur investing or just property collecting, to be really honest. They might have gotten away and gotten a little lucky just because they caught a good wave. Again, they didn't have a crystal ball. However, they just caught a good lucky wave. For example, in some of the major cities, especially for Canadian, the Vancouver markets, the Toronto markets, okay? So they bought pre-sale condos, which is something that we don't do, remember, okay? We've talked about why already in one of the episodes already. Now, the thing is, some of these guys, they usually come into the training system because they're like, oh my God, okay, I'm already maxed out. I've plateaued, I've capped out. I don't know how to go to the next level and I just feel really trapped. And so funny enough, so many of you now have actually been asking me, really, how do I really scale up? How do I really scale up? And at the same time, every time I get into a conversation with you, I realize that there's been a lot of things that maybe you should not have done. And so what I mean by that is, for example, it doesn't matter how many properties you have. If you come to me and you said you've collected 20 properties, 30 properties, and most of them are cash flowing, great. I'm gonna give you that pat on the back because to me, first and foremost, that shows that you're willing to commit and work hard and you made it a priority because it's not easily achievable for most people. However, the moment usually I get down to analyzing your portfolio with you, I quickly find out that a lot of properties that you have in your portfolio probably should not even be in there in the first place. Why? Because remember, 2 priorities. Number 1, cash flow. Number 2 is cash on cash return or your return on investment, for example. So it's all about how you can make your money work a little harder for you. So what I mean by that is some of you guys have already suggested and you finally convinced me. It's probably not going to be coming up next week, but the week after. Instead of telling you and sharing with you what I've done and what to do maybe, I'm going to share with you what not to do. Okay? And at some point I will tell you this is something that you probably shouldn't be doing. And this is not just my voice, this is not just my personal experience, this is really tried and tested results collectively from a bunch of investors that I have known personally and worldwide. So that is something that's definitely going to come up. What not to do. And it's really funny because lately I've been really binging on a lot of habit building books that I'm reading, that I'm listening to, and a lot of podcasts as well. And what it's really taught me is that while it's great to focus on building good habits, sometimes it's even more important to get rid of the bad ones first. Okay, so a good example that I can give you is, for example, if you want to get really fit and you start to go to the gym every single day, very diligently, let's say every single day, and about 2 months later, you start to complain to your friends and family, and maybe even your trainer, maybe even your coach, somebody that you pay money to train you, and you're going, I don't understand. My shape is not really getting better, and my weight is not really dropping, or my body fat percentage is not really going down. And then after a little bit of digging, it doesn't take much, and then we find out that, well, because in your mind, well, you know what? I've been going to the gym now. Before, I was already going to the donut shop every single day. Instead of getting 1 donut a day, now I'm going to get 2 or 3 donuts because I'm burning so many more calories. I'm working so much harder now. So a lot of the times, like I keep saying, it's also about fixing that mindset, really looking at what your existing relationship with money is, okay? So coming back here now, commercial units. So the idea is if you go back to season 1, funny enough, I actually got the flip chart here, but I'm just going to tell you, go back to season 1, and that episode is called the strategy session. I believe it was maybe either season 1, episode 27 or 29. We did say that the baseline of your monthly cash flow that you need to aim for is likely about $2,500. So at our $5,000 mark per month in passive income, you're looking at acquiring two different properties right there. So I'm not going to get into nitty gritties right now. What I really want to share with you today, though, is other than commercial, because I'm just going to tell you right now, especially a lot of you guys that are watching this either real time or later on, you can probably agree with me that commercial units are going to be experiencing some real troubles if they haven't already. Now, most of you will argue, well, warehousing is a different case. I'm not arguing with that. In fact, I don't ever want to argue with you because I just really want to be here to share my experiences with you and share with you what's working, what's not, and what has worked and what hasn't. That's really all my job is. However, I will agree with you on some level that yes, warehouses are still worth looking into. Now, on that note though, before I end that topic, and that's one of the reasons why we don't speak to commercial too much right now, simply because of the fact that if you do want to go into commercial, for example, remember commercial properties are usually office buildings. Guess what's happening to those? Or warehouses, or industrial base, or strip malls, okay, or malls, for example. And again, think about what's happening around the globe, economically speaking, okay? And so this is why even before COVID, I've already been coaching my students to make sure that if they are acquiring just strip malls to begin with, make sure that every single merchant, meaning every single paying tenant within those units, are what I would call a lifestyle business tenant. So, for example, a bookstore, is that really so much of lifestyle? Not exactly. On the other hand, coffee shops, nail salons, maybe even florists still, for example, or daycare. Again, as I'm listing them, you can already see some of the potential challenges during and throughout COVID so far. Again, don't know where the world's going at this point exactly. However, I think it's still safe to assume that the world is slowly changing. We're adapting. And this is also why, despite the fact that economically speaking, even globally, it's not doing so well, there are still movements in pretty much every single market that we can see in terms of buying and selling properties, except that the biggest trend that we all see here in Canada at the moment is that people are actually leaving the city center cores because they're craving bigger spaces now, having been pent up and cooped up in small spaces, small condo units within the city cores. Okay, so that's what I will share when it comes to commercial. Just make sure that if that's something that you still want to do, you look for lifestyle tenants. Okay, so or tenants that run their business based on lifestyle, meaning doesn't matter what's happening out there. Obviously, we know retail's getting hurt real bad. However, the point is lifestyle. Okay, so let's put a pin on that for a little bit. What I really want to share with you today is the idea of doing infills, constructions, or land development. And this is one of the things that I've always wanted to get into. And in 2016, we actually got into one of our very major land development deals. And so you might be wondering what's really the main difference between land development and infills. In my opinion, it's really just the scale for the most part. Infill really just means that there could already be existing dwellings that actually might be already condemned or just really old, and you still have to go through the process of demolition. Whereas land development, by definition, is pretty much either raw land or land that's already been serviced, and you can basically just build upon it. And so this is one of the things, and if you just think about wherever you live right now, okay, you might have a couple of builders in your cities or in your communities that are very well known. They do a lot of projects, they build a lot of houses or condos or buildings within the areas maybe you're familiar with. So think about that for a second, okay? Everybody thinks that all these builders make great money. And you know what? In fact, they really do. And this is why I keep saying, number one, you do not go and buy those pre-sale units. Guess what? You are their OPM. However, they're building the construction and they're building the units on wholesale value, and you're paying 100% retail. And that's why rule number one, make money in the buy. Okay, and so the point that I'm making with you right now, though, is that most people have this concept that just because it makes a lot of money, the return is great. You got to remember the lump sum of big return does not equate a good ROI. In fact, I can actually tell you most of the times, big projects, their ROIs are actually a lot lower than what you can get, let's say, from doing a regular fix and flip or a regular BRRRR, regular lease options, or regular income properties when they're done right. Why? It's simply because of the fact that construction, a lot of the times you go through a lot of different phases, and depending on how big the project is, because the bigger the project, the more profit there is usually. That's usually true. However, the point is, throughout a duration, the lifetime of bringing that project to life, a lot of things can change. So just think about this. If you've ever had the experience of buying something pre-sale, was it ever done on time? Better yet, have you ever had the experience of renovating either your own house or a rental property? Was it done 100% on time? And if it's yes, is it every single time? Okay, so my point is, honestly though, and this is why when we teach fix and flip, for example, we always teach you to budget extra time as well, because at the end of the day, what we're doing here is not to teach you how to completely avoid risk. I cannot claim that whatsoever. However, what we're teaching you is to take calculated risk. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And can I handle if the worst case scenario happens? Okay, and so going back to bigger construction units, I'm just going to give you a quick idea. One of the projects that we participated in was a $74 million project. And so the cost of the bill is $74 million, and the projected profit, I was almost saying revenue but income, projected profit after everything's been deducted, including constructions and labors and legal, all the miscellaneous fees and borrowing costs and everything, okay? There is a projected profit of nearly $25 million. And again, this was a syndication project that we all participated into. And so depending on how big of a piece of the puzzle or the pie you got, for example, then that determines what you exit with. However, I'm just gonna put it this way. For example, if you're able to raise $15 million to be participating in the project, so let's just round it up to 20% of that project, okay? So 20% of that project is your stake, which means by definition, you also take a 20% cut of the entire profit. So let's just say that instead of $25 million as projected, let's just cut $5 million out once again. Let's be conservative, $20 million. $20 million is what we're looking at in terms of the overall return. And the project is going to take 4 years, for example. So here is the thought process. Your 20% times the $20 million profit, that's $4 million return, and that'll take you 4 years to make. So for a lot of people, instead of going through a lot of mini deals, raising one JV partners at a time, raising one cash partner at a time, they decided that what they want to really do is put in what they have themselves. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the times the people and my students that were able to do this kind of strategy was because they were somewhat well established to begin with, okay? They've got a portfolio either they can liquidate or leverage. One way or another, let's say raising $15 million is not a big deal. Say they already come in with 3 to 4, and they just gotta be able to raise the other 10 or 12. Let me tell you, when you get to that level and you got a mentor holding your hands to go out there and raise the rest of the $12 million, it's not gonna be a tough situation. It's all about how you position it. And funny enough, I'm actually taking a sales training this weekend, as a lot of you guys know, with one of my favorite mentors, Pip Stellig, and with the Burbank Summit. And so really, it has a lot to do with how you say what you say when you're going out there to raise those funds to come to the project with you. But I digress. 4 years, 4 million. On average, $1 million return a year. And remember some of the math that we already did? When you take that $4 million out at the end of the 4 years, let's just say that if I lied. I said I was not going to write, but let's just do it this way. Let's just say that when you cash out $4 million, and this is, remember, like I said, already taking your borrowing costs into consideration, okay? And every single month, you have a monthly household expenses. I know we've been doing 5,000. I'm just gonna bring it up a little bit just to show you, okay? I'm gonna double it. So what that means, okay, is now you have 400 months worth of wealth now. So depending on how old you are, that's gonna last you quite some time, no? I think so. Or the other way to look at it once again, like what we were talking about yesterday and the day before, is what if you take the 4 mil, and even if you want to be super conservative now because you said, oh my God, okay, I took a huge step and big risk on doing a ginormous construction deal and it went through. I'm happy, I got my money back now. I'm just gonna play it safe, okay? So we've been using what, 12% return? Well, how about, let's say, just 8% return? Not out of this world, okay? That's still $320,000 on an annual basis, and you divide that by 12. I don't even know how to do that math off the top of my head right now. So $320,000 divided by 12 months. That is a passive income of 26,66667 a month coming in. I don't know about you, however, I think for most of us, our lives going to be drastically different for the rest of our lives, and we're going to be fairly financially happy and secured. Would you agree? So, again, this is what I wanted to share with you today, is really just taking it to the next level as well, because there is always a next level, as we keep saying too, okay? So, I actually made some notes today just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Oh yeah, funny enough, one of you guys, actually, I shouldn't say just one of you, because over the last couple of seasons, I've been sort of getting interesting messages from a lot of you guys, and most of them are Canadian, and a lot of you guys also come from other parts of the world. But yesterday I sort of mentioned that, you know, because I do invest in myself, and I train myself and upgrade my skills as much as I possibly can, and I do allocate a budget for personal development, professional development every single year. So I constantly have coaches and mentors that guide me into different areas of my life as well. And I did mention, especially yesterday, that I've had what I thought were mentors and coaches that ended up really just wanted to teach me enough and to sell me on their deals. And so that's one aspect of looking at things that so many of you actually over time, it's not something that I like to address, but I just found this quite funny, is the fact that you've been actually telling me that, yeah, that kind of happened to me and I sort of lost faith in this whole process, to be really honest, or I got into deals that my mentor or coach told me to do, and it wasn't the right one, and as a result I got into financial hardship. So I hate real estate, but I still think that it's worth it, so I'm kind of skittish right now. I'm just, looking to get my feet wet again. Whatever the case may be, you know what, I really, really, truly hope that you are getting something out of the content that I'm creating here, because I truly just want to put a message out there, is that ultimately speaking, you need to find somebody who is unbiased. And when I say by unbiased, it's a very simple definition, is whoever does not have financial gains in the deals that you do. Pay for education, pay for training, pay for mentorship. I will always, always be honest with you of the fact that I will always be biased about that. Is the fact that you need to build your own ways of critical thinking of how you analyze deals so that you can learn to protect yourself, okay? And so this is why I'm super passionate about doing what I do, and I have no qualms about telling you the fact that you all need to go out there and find yourself somebody to model after, because somewhere out there is somebody that's already been living the life that you're living right now. Maybe you're not so happy, and they made a decision to make a difference in their lives, and as a result, they get to live the life on their own terms right now. And so that is really just everything that I want to share with you this week, especially on this topic. Part 7, we wrapped it up. 5 ways of achieving financial freedom in 5 years or less. So I want to thank you once again for following me on this topic. And next week, we're going to start something completely fresh. Not going to tell you what it is yet, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So with that said, Thank you very much again. Make sure you comment, reach out if you got any questions. Also, as usual, if you know somebody that can actually benefit from the content and can learn from some of the knowledge that I'm putting out there, maybe even just help them adjust their mindset, their relationship with money, whatever it is, okay? Make sure you share this with them. And I thank you for doing that, and I appreciate you for joining me and supporting me always. Have a great weekend. It's Friday here where I am now, and I will see you back here next week. Live well, everybody.